Welcome everyone to Train Tuesday. I am your host, Jim Wiggins. So glad to have you on board. And tonight, it's Reefer Madness here at Train Tuesday. We're going to be talking reefers. But before we do, let's see who's joining us on the live feed. I see Stephen Wagner is here till 9 Eastern Standard Time. He'll have to see how long he stays. It looks like he's watching some PBS tonight. I see Michael, Ronald, Delta, Sid, Jeremy, DG Model Works is in the house, and trust me, he's going to have a review coming up real soon. I see Mr. Benjamin Temple just south of me is here. Jason, Michael, Ronald, and Greg, just to name a few. So thank you for joining us here tonight on the live. If you're watching us after the live, and I get it, not everybody has Tuesday available. So if you're like me, you're probably watching on the weekends while you're working on something on the workbench. Thanks for joining us. If you do like what you see on our YouTube channel, do me a favor, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and that way you're notified every time a new video like this drops into our channel. And do comment. I don't answer all of them, but I try to answer as many as I can. And it's always good to interact with you guys one way or another. So here we go. Keegan saying I need the beard. I don't know. It's slowing me down on the motorcycle. It's too much drag. So let's see who else is joining us on the live, and let's get started with another Train Tuesday and some train goodness. I see Train Jack 16 is here. Harry has joined us. Keegan, of course, is here. He is a lover of the beard. Elka Steam, Lincoln, David, Anthony, and let's see, Brian just joined us. So thanks for joining us. Let's talk reefers, shall we? So reefers. We're going to start this evening talking about more of a modern reefer. When I say modern, 1960s era. 1960s. So these are roundhouse models. They're not going to be as detailed as the Genesis models, but I always like to say these are great for operations, especially if you've got some folks that are operating on your layout that are, let's just say, not as delicate as they should be. You don't have to worry about all those details falling off because they're molded on a roundhouse. Now, the model that you see on your screen currently, RND 87995, that's from a previous run, and I don't know if you can find these anymore. That's from quite a few years ago. But just in case, I have put the part number there for you on the screen. That way, if you fall in love with this car, you can probably find it through some source online. Now, railroads responded to the migration from ice stored in bunkers as a primary cooling system to the diesel mechanical systems that these cars had. The mechanical reefers could keep a more regular temperature, sometimes even colder than what the ice bunkers could at the time. Initially, mechanical reefers were used primarily in frozen food service. However, this would soon change as mechanical refrigeration began to replace the ice-based systems. And soon after that, these pretty much retired many jobs because before that, remember, ice was harvested from bodies of water during the winter months. It was then sent to a special building, wrapped in sawdust, and kept throughout the summer. And those old reefers, well, you'll remember they had doors on top of the roofs. That's where the blocks of ice went down in there. It kept things cold. Well, once they went to mechanical refrigeration, all of those folks that were working in that process were, well, unemployed. So these cars here that we're running for this run are going to be primarily for the 1960s. We do have one that's in the 1970s. All of the road numbers I'm going to be showing you tonight are available in 3 different road numbers. So every road, that is going to have 3 different road numbers. And let's show you what we've got for the month of February. So starting at the top, right in the smack middle of the 60s, 1966 Santa Fe. We're going to do 3 road numbers for the Santa Fe. Folks in the Midwest, you're going to be happy to see that we're offering a 1963 era Chicago Northwestern. Once again, 3 different road numbers for Chicago Northwestern. On the bottom, we're going to 1967. This is the Freak Growers Express. Again, 3 road numbers per road. Now, this next one might surprise you just a little bit. You might at first glance think that says Burlington Northern. No, it's not. It's Burlington. This is 1965. And yes, Burlington did paint some of their cars this color green, which ironically looks very familiar to another green that we'd see just a few years later. Now we're going to offer the Burlington 1965 car in 3 different road numbers as well. And then we've got 2 Pacific Fruit Express cars. The first one there in the middle is for 1971 on up. So you could definitely use it throughout the 1970s. A lot of these did last quite a while. And then the one on the bottom is just from a few years earlier, 1967. So we've got 6 roads here that we're going to be offering for the month of February. You can probably find your favorite here and stock up on all 3 road numbers, or you can mix and match to your desire. I don't read the road numbers individually like I did in the past because we were getting a lot of complaints about that, and it did kind of sound like a numbers program. So if you're too young to know what a numbers program is, look it up on YouTube. It's pretty interesting. If you really want to know what the road numbers are, look at the video description below, and there's a link to these cars that go directly to the Athearn website. And that way you can see what road numbers are going to be offered within this group. Now, even though these are roundhouse, there are some neat details that we're going to go over. They do have body-mounted McHenry scale knuckle couplers. They're also going to have metal wheel sets. They do have the RP25 contour. That basically means they'll go over all manufacturers' HO scale track. Now, despite them being roundhouse and despite having molded on detail, that doesn't mean they're short of detail. There's actually quite a bit of detail to these cars. And of course, we try to make them weighted to operate very nicely. Minimum radius on these cars, believe it or not, is 15 inches. So even if you've got a small layout, for you HO scale guys that maybe have a simple 4x8 layout, there's no shame in that. These cars will run and navigate on those curves without any issues whatsoever. So there you have it. There is our, we'll say, modern car for the night. Now we're going to go back in time to the turn of the last century. So 36-foot wooden cars. You guys that are into the steam era are going to probably want to pick these up. Now, the car that you see on your screen currently, R&D 1010, it is from a previous run, but the good news is these are available right now. You can get these from your Athearn dealer. We started shipping these at the beginning of the year. So the car that you see here, actually available. And we offered these, I believe, in 3-car sets as well as singles. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and talk to your dealer. Let me show you what we're going to be offering for the month of February. So we got some famous names here. So what we're showing here is 1950 era Oscar Mayer. Now, kind of late for these cars, 1950, but still within the steam era. You could probably sneak in a GP7 considering that those came out in 1947, but pretty much going to see a lot of steam action with these guys. Oscar Mayer is going to be available in the car that you see here, plus 2 additional road numbers. And then the beer that made Milwaukee famous, of course, it's Schlitz. We're going to offer this 1891 era car in 3 different road numbers. Really cool graphics on these cars. If you like this billboard style of reefer car, you're going to want to pick these up. They look great behind some of our recent releases, like the 280s that we just released. And of course, we've got 260s coming out sometime around December or so. Here's another one that's an eye-catching design, Purina. This is 1903. We're going to offer this as well in 3 different road numbers. This is a really cool car. 1903, you've got the really cool, intricate paint. So just because it's roundhouse doesn't mean it's simple. There's quite a bit of deco involved in a car like this. Right underneath it, we've got Wilson Packing. This is for 1951. So if you wanted something to go along with your Oscar Mayer cars, you could definitely stick those in there and it would be relevant by era. That will also be available in 3 different road numbers. And then finally, you knew there was going to be a Southern Pacific in there. There just had to be. Well, Southern Pacific is here representing the era 1902 and just a little bit above. We're going to offer 3 different road numbers for Southern Pacific. And then finally, straight out of Iowa, is Dubuque Packing. This is another one that's 1951. So it would work well with the other ones that we just talked about. So whether you're a fan of early turn of the last century, all the way up to late steam, early transition, these cars are probably something you're going to want to add to your layout. Now let's go back to the one that's currently in stock and let's talk a little bit about the details of these cars. So again, some of the basics: body mounted couplers, metal wheel sets with the RP25 contours. We already know all that. You can probably guess, since these are 36-foot wooden cars, they're going to navigate pretty easily around an 18-inch radius, and you'd be correct. So again, if you've got a small layout, that's fine. These will navigate an 18-inch all the way up to whatever size radius that you're lucky to have. Now, a couple of things to think about these. Again, these being roundhouse doesn't mean they're necessarily short on detail. Yes, the grab irons are molded on. Yes, some of the details are molded on. But look at this picture here, and you can see you've got the turnbuckles that were common for these era of cars. You can also see a lot of great detail in the trucks. So again, while they're not Genesis level, they definitely still have some nice detail to them. And something else is the printing and painting on these is second to none. If you were to compare this to an older blue box model, the difference would be day and night. The printing on these, the painting on these is just absolutely fabulous. And again, if you're operating this time period and your fellow operators aren't as gentle as you are, well, these might be a good item to pick up for your roster. So there you have it. 2 types of reefers, depending on what era you're modeling in. You can pre-order either one of these cars, or if you want to mix and match and get them all, you can go see your dealer by Friday, February 28th. It's coming right up. In fact, I believe it's next Friday. So you're going to want to get in touch with your dealer, whether you're lucky enough to have a brick and mortar store that's close by, or maybe you do all your shopping online. You can contact your dealer either way and place your pre-orders for these models. Well, there you have it. We've got a little bit of time to talk to you and see what kind of questions you may have tonight. I'm not going to keep you too long because I don't know where you're at, but here it's only, according to my computer, it's like 13 degrees, which means it's great weather to do some modeling. Let's see what kind of questions we have out there. Yes, Gerald, we do have news on Missouri Pacific GP15-1s. That order, and remember, these are the GP15s in the Athearn Genesis line. These are the first ones in that series that we announced with lit number boards and classification lights. Those are on the water now. Basically, that means they are on the transport ship. We're waiting to get those. And once they hit the United States, they'll go on rail to Chicago, and then from Chicago to Horizon in central Illinois here by truck. We're hoping, I'm hoping, because I'm right there with you, I've got some of those on order. We're hoping to have those by about the middle of March. Now, if you want to keep up to date on that kind of stuff, I know the website is extremely wonky right now. You could sign up for our Athearn newsletter. I try to update that every week and send you guys updates on where stuff is. And that goes out usually every Friday. You can also watch our social media, and I will answer questions there as well. Let's see. Anthony wants to know if some of those cars that I announced from earlier, did they run into the 80s? In some cases, but generally in the late 70s, early 80s, technology was advancing, that a lot of those were slowly getting sidelined. However, that doesn't mean that they were all sidelined overnight. Just like anything with railroad equipment, as it aged, it either got repaired or retired. So if you really want to know, do some research. There are pictures I know in my CD&Q books of some of those Burlington reefers going on into the late 70s, but I can't find anything later than that. Here's a good question. Jim, any plans to do the Burlington Northern SD60M 1991 Desert Storm appreciation locomotive again in Genesis? Boy, you know, that would be cool. We did that many, many years ago. It's been at least 10 years, if I remember right. What I would suggest to you is to go to our Athearn product suggestion at athearn.com and shoot us that email. Because, yeah, it might be time to do one of those again. And the timing would be right. For those of you that don't know or not aware, Burlington Northern in 1991 painted up one of their SD60Ms in a highly patriotic paint scheme, which featured all the shields of all of the United States military. In fact, in one photo I found, there's a plaque on the side of the locomotive with all Burlington Northern employees that were involved in Desert Shield and then Desert Storm. It was a nice tip of the hat to our veterans from Burlington Northern, and it made for a really colorful locomotive that lasted for quite a few years. So thanks for that suggestion. Go ahead and shoot us an email at Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com, and who knows, we might see that. When are the GP7 pre-order? Well, which GP7s are you talking about? The GP7s that we announced in February? You have until Friday the 28th to place your pre-order on those locomotives. So you've only got a few more days. You don't even have a few more weeks at this point. That includes the GP7s, the GP7Ls, as well as the GP8s. And don't forget, the GP7Ls has all new tooling. If you missed that program, check out our YouTube channel. We talked about the GP7s a couple of weeks ago on a Train Tuesday. So check that out. We talk about the tooling. Let's see. What else have we got? I'm going to put Terry up here. Now, there's a rumor that Terry never left his house. In fact, Terry hasn't left his house since 1992. He is a well-versed railroader. And this kind of answers the question we had earlier. 50-foot reefers were replaced by the 58 and longer reefers in the 70s. Santa Fe was selling off their 50-foot cars to farmers in Oklahoma in 1982. Terry, thanks for that. You are a wealth of information. There you have it. So Santa Fe, yeah, not so much. Burlington, like I said, depends on the railroad, depends on a lot of things. There is always a prototype for everything, but I did not know that Santa Fe sold a lot of them to Oklahoma farmers. That's pretty cool. Train Jack wants to know any sneak peeks for next month's announcements. No, not that I can think of. Let's see what else we've got. GP40-2 with CSX YN3 paint scheme availability, please. If memory serves me correct, you're probably thinking about the ones that we announced a couple of years ago. We are pushing to get those out. We got one that's coming out, I believe, in the middle of July, and then I think we have another one at the end of the year. I don't have the information in front of me, but that kind of gives you an idea. This question comes up every week. Tariffs. Yes, tariffs. What is that going to do? What is the state of the model railroad industry going to do? So right now it's too early to tell. Athearn has taken a stance that we're going to wait and see. We know that the current administration is talking about tariffs. They talked about tariffs for our northern neighbors, our southern neighbors. There was some dealing going on there. And of course, there's been some talk of tariffs with our factories overseas. Now, right now, it's too early to tell. It would be irresponsible of Athearn to say anything official without having all the information. But do know that when we have all the information, we can do all the math. we will probably let you know what that's going to be. Is it going to have an impact on us? Again, it's too early to tell at this point. We're going to have to wait and see. Let's see what else we've got. Now, I do see some folks. Sometimes I think you guys have me on speed dial. It's like, I want a 462. I want an SD60M. Athearn product suggestions at athearn.com. That's your best bet. If Athearn had to rely on new product announcements based on what I see on Train Tuesday, we would probably do a couple of Burlington Northern units, a Rock Island unit, and maybe a steam locomotive. So do yourself a favor, give your fingers a break, go over and shoot us an email at Athearn-product suggestions at athearn.com. Now, I can hear some of you in the audience right now saying, but they never respond to me and they never make my model. Keep in mind that that email is where we store all that information. Now, that does go to a product developer. They look at that pretty much on a daily basis, but that doesn't mean they're going to have an open dialogue with you about your favorite locomotive or road. Also, we have to look at other things too. We have to see what the sales data was on that railroad the last time we ran them. Did we just run that road recently? There's all kinds of different factors we got to look into. So please don't ever be upset because we didn't offer your railroad, and don't take it personal. It's just how we run business, because yes, we are model railroaders here at Athearn, but we're also business folk and we have to make smart choices. Believe it or not, that's probably one of the most requested things that we get at shows is what we're doing next and can you do my railroad? Let's see, this is a hot topic on social media right now. Very hot topic. So let's just get it out there in the open. Good evening, Jim. Has Athearn received any inquiries about the newest run of GP38-2s? The problem is the ditch lights replaced in the middle of the walkway. Well, I'm not sure if I've seen you on the program before. If you're new, welcome. Thanks for joining us. What he's talking about is our latest run of GP38-2s from the Athearn Genesis line, and these are the ones that have the lit number boards and classification or marker lights, depending on the model. One of the BNSF locomotives, 2099 specifically, there's an issue with the ditch lights and the placement of the ditch lights to be, to basically say what the issue is. Now, there's a lot of going back and forth of what's happened. We are aware of the situation and do know that we are taking it seriously. We have not made a statement on it yet, but we will be. I would probably think, hopefully by the end of this week, you'll see a statement from Athearn of what we plan to do on that. It's something we take serious, and we're a manufacturer. We're not perfect. We try to do our best to make good products, and we try our best to make the best models for our customers. But anytime you're in a production, especially when you have the logistics of working with factories overseas and translations, sometimes things get missed. Now, we apologize that this happened, and it's certainly something we're not proud of, but it is something that we do take serious, and it is something we're going to address. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. We're looking at December. We did have some at the Amherst show. There were some early samples that John brought. We're hoping to have those out by December. We get this question every week too, believe it or not. Has Athearn had an idea for a while, or he's had this idea for a while. Could Athearn ever do building kits? We kind of already do. If you look at our undecorated models, they are basically kits. The SD40, the Athearn SD40 that we released back around Thanksgiving, we still have them. They're undecorated. We got plenty in stock. So guys that like to custom paint, fire up that airbrush and order these. They're basically a kit. They come with all the parts to make whatever SD40 you want to. Same goes for our undecorated SW switchers, the SW 1500s, in both the standard and the SP. Those include all those parts. And then a new release, the 60-foot containers are available in undecorated, and those are essentially kits. You have to put those together as well. So while we haven't gone full time into the kit business, we do technically have some kits out there. You just got to look for them. Hope that answers your question. Sid wants to know when the NSC 6400s and 6000s arrive. So when we were at the Amherst show, a lot of people were asking John that very question. John has been doing a lot of diligent work on those models. He is trying to get those out by fall. Now, when I say he's trying to get those out by fall, please don't send me an email on the first day of fall saying I lied. There's a lot going on back behind the scenes. John is extremely busy as our lead product developer, and he also has a keen eye on prototype stuff. So he's making sure everything is exactly as we advertised. But he did assure a lot of folks that were at the show that he's trying for fall. Now, the other thing, too, is we'll try to keep you updated on our email newsletter as well as social media. Let's see what else we've got. Train Jack, not to pick on you, but another good question. Any updates for the licensing agreement with Mack Trucks? Unfortunately, I don't have anything for you now. A lot of folks like myself who need some Macks. We're waiting, but unfortunately, sometimes in a legality type thing, waiting is part of the game. Let's see what else we've got here. Let's see. This was a question I answered earlier on social media. Any idea when the Wisconsin Southern SD40s will be out? I think we are shooting for middle to late July on those, if I remember correctly. Yeah, a couple of guys are commenting, like Randall just commented that he has BNSF 2099. Yeah, again, we apologize. It happens in manufacturing. Again, I don't believe there's any such thing as a perfect manufacturer. I wish there was, but this one snuck out. And Randall and everybody else had 2099. Don't worry, Athearn's going to stand by their product, and we'll have an announcement here shortly. Let's see what else we've got. Here's an interesting question. Lewis says, are you guys going to come up with a partsless catalog again or what? Probably not. Reason being is because the partsless catalog would be, I can't say a telephone book because those guys in here probably don't know what a telephone book is. It would be thick. Reason being is take a look at the average Athearn Genesis, let's say Jeep, and look at all the parts just for that. Because every time we do, say, a Jeep 9, we do many, many different versions of Jeep 9s plus rebuilds, and like our GP7s, we've added to the parts catalog for that. So a lot of that is just on the actual instruction sheets themselves, and those numbers correspond to what our service department can get for you. So for us to have like an online catalog for just part numbers, no, we're not going to have anything like that, and certainly won't have anything printed other than what you see on our instruction sheets. Sparky, you are not unloved. I didn't know I could make you a moderator. Yeah, actually, we have a moderator. You just don't see him. And he's in the background there. But no, don't feel unloved. Feel like Sparky here. Yes, we do. Lincoln wants to know, hey, Jim, is there an update on the release of the N-Scale F59 PHI, the New Mexico Rail Runner? And he gives some things there. So the passenger sets are going to come, I believe, about the same time as the units. The units were actually going to ship later because just the way it was in the production schedule. But one of our product developers saw something that needed attention, so it delayed some things. And I think the way it's worked out, they're going to ship at the same time. That's probably going to be about April, May. It's kind of hard to say. We haven't gotten the photo samples yet. If you start seeing the photo samples on our website, that means they're usually about 6 to 8 weeks away. And I'm still anxiously awaiting our photo samples to take pictures of for everything. A lot of folks asking for UPCA 11s. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Both N scale and HO. John had some samples of the N scale version at Amherst, and I believe he said he's working on the early part of winter next year that we should start seeing those. I think the HO ones will be done first, if memory serves correctly. But again, keep an eye on our social media because lately, Janek's been really good about giving me pictures of pre-production stuff to share with you guys. Christopher says, and this is about a comment I made earlier, so should I email you on the second day of fall? Sure. That's fine. Or you can just find me at Train Fest. I'll be at Train Fest. Let's see what else we've got here. Bruce wants to know if there's any word on the Arch passenger cars, express box cars. I don't have anything for you right now. The factory just got back from Chinese New Year about a week ago. So we'll probably start seeing some more information. Anytime I can find some information, I'll try to post it for you. This is a great question from BN Green, 1970. I do like talking about licensing since I've dealt with it so much in the last 25 years. Speaking of licensing, you mentioned Coke trucks a couple of weeks ago. To do something like that, would you need a license from both Coke and Ford or GM? If so, it sounds expensive. That is exactly correct. So let's talk about that for a second. Now, we already have a license with Ford, right? So you're thinking, well, we can do, let's say, a Pepsi-Cola or a Coca-Cola, or from my neck of the woods, Moxie beverage truck, right? We've actually got tooling for the old school beverage trucks. Well, first of all, we got to get licensing from the beverage, and that can be extremely expensive. And then, oh, by the way, Ford did give us licensing, but it's for the older trucks. Maybe we want to do a newer Ford truck. So you're absolutely correct. Not only do you have to pay the licensing for the vehicle manufacturer, but also the brand in which they're hauling, selling, what have you. Now, we can get away with that on some of our products, specifically freight carriers, because a lot of those freight carriers have gone out of business in the last 20 years. They're kind of grandfathered in, and we can do those. But you'll notice with some carriers like UPS, we pay a licensing fee. And in some cases, that licensing fee is extended to you by price. Now, we're also working with other freight carriers, and that will probably occur some licensing as well. But great question. I mean, yeah, there's 2 licenses you've got to pay for there. Let's see, let's do 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to it. I'm going to find some good questions here for you. Let's see. I'm not going to answer any paint scheme questions right now because there's a lot of factors involved in that, well beyond what I have to do. Let's see what else we've got. So I see some talk back and forth. I'm going to use Rogan. I'm not picking on you, Rogan. I just see your comment there. Basically, you know, what's going on with the RX 500. So I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and I know you guys heard me because it was on a certain railroad forum. And yes, I do read those railroad forums. John kind of put that on the side because right now our biggest thing is to get surfliners and California cars done. I do believe he's got all the work on his end about done, and he's at the phase where he's going to start checking things back and forth with the factory. So he'll probably resume on the RX 500s probably here real soon. not talking for John, just John and I were talking about it when we were at Amherst, and that was one of the things he was saying. So the RX 500, yes, it does exist. I've seen some really cool drawings. This is going to be a great locomotive, by the way. And a lot of people gave us grief for doing it because they said, well, I've never seen an RX 500. When in actuality, there's probably more RX 500s than there were GP7s produced. You don't see them because they're usually in an industrial setting where you can't go to railfan. So they are actually quite popular. And I'm thinking for the guys out there with the shelf layouts like myself, it's going to be the perfect locomotive for doing some shelf switching. All right, last question. Stephen, you're doing a great job. If you don't know Stephen, I call him Wagner. It's Wagner. He's doing a great job tonight, just kind of fielding some questions for me. Hello, Trackside Mike. Glad you could join us. A couple of guys saying thank you that what we're talking about with the 38-2. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's embarrassing because, again, you got to realize the guys that we have on staff that are product developers, they've been doing this for a number of years. Sometimes things happen, and we're going to take care of it. Just stand by. I don't have anything official for you tonight, but stand by. We'll put something on social media and the email newsletter. All right, last question, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to hopefully doing some model railroading. I got some HO scale track delay. We'll stop with Randall. He says it would be incredibly expensive to get licensing from GM, Dodge, and any other manufacturer, not to mention just brands in general. Yeah, it's increasingly getting that way. Many moons ago in a different life, I worked for a company that did plastic models. And of course, plastic models includes everything from the family station wagon to the F-150. And some manufacturers were easy to work with, some weren't. Plastic model cars were really hard to deal with because you also had to deal with the licensing of the tire companies. And if you did certain race liveries, well, everybody knows that a modern stock car is just covered in advertisements, and each one of those had a licensing behind it. So it can be rather expensive. And unfortunately, model railroading, we're not immune to that. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a hard no. We do have folks at Horizon in the legal system that do work with licensing. And of course, our parent company, Horizon Hobby, they do everything in scale from Ford, Chevy, Dodge, Toyota, Nissan, and I could go on, even Polaris. So that kind of gives us an in. We've got some ins there. And I can tell you that the director of Athearn, if you've probably met him at shows, Mark, he is working on licensing for some commercial trucks. We'll see where that goes because we see those comments out there, and you're not alone. A lot of us at Athearn would like to see those as well. Well, that's all I've got for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed the program. Also, I want to let you know, DG Model Works, you probably see him in the comments. He's got a GP38-2 to review. Of course, his is Norfolk Southern. And be watching his channel. That's probably going to be reviewed here in the next few days. I'm loving my 38-2, and yeah, I got a Norfolk Southern. It should be Conrail Blue, but I'll let it slide. Until next time, everyone, I want everybody out there to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some good modeling, take advantage of the cold weather, and work on the layout while you can. Until next time, high greens, everyone. Take care.